allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And all please remain standing for a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Steelvogel? Here. Commissioner Vogler?
Here.
Commissioner Boyd?
Here. We have quorum. I will note we're being live streamed right now. It's being broadcast through our YouTube channel for public consumption. We're also being recorded internally, and for that purposes of filing minutes, and for that reason, anybody who has business before the board asks that they come up and speak before that microphone there to make sure we pick it up and are able to compile it into the minutes. Row officer reports and comments. Looking at the audience today, I'm not seeing any row officers with us. Public comments. Anybody in the audience today wishing to make public comment? Anybody on the board wishing to make public comment? Take that as a no. I will note if anyone's watching via live stream and wishes to make public comment, they may do so by emailing me their comment at mboyd@lawrencecountypa.gov. That's mboyd@lawrencecountypa.gov. Please include the subject line public comment. It will be entered into the record. Fiscal and contractual. We are advertising right now. We have a bid out for collection, processing, and marketing of recyclables from countywide drop-off depots. Deadline to bid on that is October 4th, 2021 at 3 p.m. Those bids can be submitted to the Office of the Controller. No receipts of bids or proposals, no fiscal reports, no report on quotes. We do have warrant registers from August 27, August 31, September 1. I'll give my colleagues probably more than a minute to check those over.
Yeah.
The warrant register process this is sort of the accumulation of the county's fiscal process. How it works is a department head, row officer, member of the board of commissioners, really anybody in a leadership capacity in the county organization sends down a purchase order. If they wish to make a purchase for anything from staples to new computer to really anything. They send that down to the controller's office where it's encumbered. Controller checks, makes sure there's money in the budget for it. If there is, controller's office encumbers that, gets sent up to the board of commissioners. It's reviewed by county administrator and signed off on or not signed off on by the members of the board of commissioners. From there, it goes back down to the controller's office. Controller has authorization to pay it out. Controller pays it out, accumulates these lists, which show all expenditures made by the county. We receive these lists, check them over, make sure everything's done appropriately and prudently, and either approve them or don't approve them. So it's a big checks and balances system. Make sure that it's damn near impossible for public monies to go uncounted.
Very true, very true. And I will make that motion to approve all three.
Second. The motion is second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Up next, approval of minutes from Tuesday, August 31, 2021. Get onto my colleagues over to check this over, take a motion to approve or make any changes necessary and expedient. Short one last time.
Just wanted to note that I did get the trivia question correctly last week. Do you remember the question?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, there might be another question today.
Okay, then I'll move to accept them. And get ready.
I'll second Loretta's motion.
We got a motion and second. Very further discussion. Hearing none, question on the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I'm not competitive at all.
We have one written communication today. This is actually a positive, very, very positive. For Hearthstone Acres Phase 3, single family residential development. Letter reads, Dear Commissioners, Consulting Engineer for staff of Carbo Associates, who wish to inform you of our intent to submit an application to Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection to obtain a general permit utility line stream crossing for the following project, Hearthstone Acres Phase 3. It's a 24-lot single family residential development. Project location is on Old Plank Road in Neshannock Township. So we're looking at potentially 24 new houses for Neshannock Township. That's a good day for me.
Fantastic.
As I always note, under Pennsylvania state law, various entities are required to notify the board of commissioners that certain activities are taking place within their counties. Board of Commissioners receives notification from those entities, whether it be through a DEP permit they're applying through, a DOT permit they're applying through, A couple other assorted miscellaneous permitting processes that require notification of the board. We have no approval authority over these permits. We have no denial authority over these permits. We're just required to receive notification, make sure that we know everything that's going on in Williams County. But I'll take a motion to accept and file.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Question on the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Staff reports. Do we have any member of staff here that has anything to report above and beyond what's already on the agenda? Seeing none, commissioner reports and comments. Loretta, you're on deck. Floor is yours.
Okay, two things I know we'll all probably mention, the passing of our elections director. But I would also just even note once again, with our uptick in cases and, kids headed back to school and businesses up and running that, we all just need to proceed with caution and do what we think is best for us in our own interests and be kind and respectful. That's the bottom line with it. It's no sense sugarcoating it. It's a very tense situation right now, but let's just all try to be kind and respectful of what anybody else is going through and how they're dealing with it. We're all in that same storm, as that saying goes, but we're all handling it differently. So I would start off with that. And then, of course, my time working with our former elections director, Ed Allison, was limited, but in that short amount of time, he did make an impact on me. And I just truly feel blessed that I had the opportunity to learn from him, to work with him, and to share lighthearted arguments with him over election and voter issues. He will certainly be missed, certainly.
Thank you.
Dan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of things. First, and Morgan mentioned it to Debbie when she walked in. Thank you for the very nice article you wrote about Mr. Allison. I have to own up to a mistake that I made. I indicated to you, and I was wrong, that the board that hired Ed was myself, Commissioner Craig, and Commissioner Fosnot. That was not the case. It was myself, Commissioner Craig, and Commissioner de Blasio that hired Ed. So I stand corrected and I apologize. I misspoke. And Ed was a dear friend to all of us, and he'll be greatly missed. The one thing I take a good deal of comfort in is that he educated his staff very well, and they're ready to meet the challenge of the upcoming election. In fact, a couple of the part-time folks came in today. I'm sure you saw them.
Mm-hmm.
They're here, and they'll make it work.
Yes.
In part because Ed educated them well. It's one reason they'll make it work. Speaking of Ed and the borough of Bessemer, it was noted that Ed had been the mayor of Bessemer Borough at one point, along with being on borough council. The borough also lost a second former mayor just within the last few days, Raymond Penwell. Many of us knew him as, his nickname was Stoopy. Stoopy Penwell passed away, a real gentleman, just a real gentleman, and did a lot in the Mohawk area. His son Scott went to Mohawk, and Stoopy was very active in fact, he may have been on the school board at one time, now that I think about it, but he was definitely the mayor of Bessemer Borough. So within the course of a week, the borough has lost two of their former mayors. Very sad. Stoopy was a nice man. Finally, I have a trivia question.
Okay.
And whoever gets this will get a $2 bill. This is an Elwood City Borough question. It's too bad Nick's not here today. I'm going to specifically talk about the Ewing Park neighborhood. Beautiful area of Elwood City. That area was developed in the 1920s. And the streets that run east to west, there are four of them. And they're named in honor of the first four presidents. This is not the question, this is just some background. Washington Avenue, Adams Avenue, Jefferson, and Madison Avenues. And they all run east to west. Now, there are a number of streets that run primarily north to south in that neighborhood. I'm going to name them. And then what I'm going to ask, the question is, what is the common thread of all those names? So the first four that I mentioned, they were all presidents. Here are the streets that run north to south. Bear with me. Allenby, Beatty, Bing, Foch, Haig, Joffrey, Johnston, March, Pershing, Patton, Sims, and Wood.
World War I generals.
You get the $2 bill.
You gave him that question ahead of time.
No, I didn't.
Excellent.
Edward,
All right.
or Edmund Allenby was a British Army Field Marshal. David Beatty was a British Royal Navy Fleet Officer. Julian Byng was a British Army Field Marshal. Ferdinand Foch was a French general and the Supreme Allied Commander, and Mr. Boyd is correct, these are all World War I.
Right.
Douglas Haig was a British Army Field Marshal. Joseph Joffrey was a French general. Francis Johnston was a British Brigadier General. Peyton March was the U.S. Army Chief of Staff. He was also a general. John Pershing was a U.S. Army general. Philippe Patton was a French general. William Sims was a U.S. Navy admiral, and Leonard Wood was a U.S. Army general. How did you know that?
I don't know. But I've got one for you. John Pershing is one of 2 Americans in history to be named, it's a rank called General of the Armies, which is effectively the highest military rank you can achieve. Who was the second?
Off the top of my head, I'd say President Dwight Eisenhower, but that's not right, is it? Maybe Loretta knows.
George Washington. It's the only, he was awarded posthumously, I want to say in the 1950s, because they realized, hey, we can't have John Pershing have this, this incredible honor and not have General Washington.
Right.
So you had 2 Americans,
Makes sense.
George Washington and John Pershing.
Well, there's your $2 bill for getting the answer.
There it is.
So
I'm framing this.
next time you're in Elwood City and you're in the Ewing Park neighborhood, make note of those streets because they're all
Yes,
named after World War I military leaders, both American, some French, and some
Right.
British. That's my trivia for the day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you. I
Congrats.
wasn't going to let
That was
Loretta get another
wonderful.
one up on my.
So I couldn't remember, friends of mine live down there, and I couldn't remember a single street. I'm thinking, I'm gonna now have to know this answer, so I'm glad it was something outside of the realm that I should have known anything, so that's good. Fantastic.
Thomas Jefferson, right? Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were asking that as a trivia question.
No, I'm asking.
Damn, no. Yep, Jefferson.
President Jefferson.
Excellent,
Quite the back of these two. You got the.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll echo my colleagues' statements insofar as I consider in the short time that I was able to get to know him, I consider him a friend. He will be greatly missed, as was mentioned. Through his efforts, his office isn't going to miss a beat. Even when he was confined to his home, he was calling in. He was having his office run papers out to him to approve. Until such time as he wasn't able to speak. So he performed his duties to the end. I'm going to miss him, going to miss his friendship. And the funeral service, that we have the viewing hours today from 3 to 9. If anyone's interested in attending those, and then the service is tomorrow at 11. And our staff has been notified they're excused. Anyone who wishes to go to the service is able to do that. On that solemn note, we're going to move into the new business section of the agenda. We're not quite ready to move on the first area of the boards with the appointment of Mr. Audia to the Industrial Development Authority. Daryl is taking some time to think that over, that appointment. And so to that end, we'll take no action on that. And just leave it at that. Assessment, JR, what do we have going on here today?
Good morning.
How you doing?
Good morning.
Not bad. How about you? Okay. We have 2 resolutions in front of you for a settlement agreement for a property located in Wilmington Borough. The parcel ID is 18023 The address is, I believe, 230 or 115 Shannick Avenue. This used to be the old fractured grade property. Most notably, most recently, that was what it was rented for.
The old one, but not
The old one, not
yeah, it's beside the tavern.
My goodness, I remember, I'd call that the old Ben Franklin. That's showing my age. The old Ben Franklin 5 and 10 cent store. Okay.
The settlement agreement for the property, the current owner of it is Paul Lynch Investments. The school district has already approved this consent order. Since the borough does not levy a real estate tax, they do not need to consent to this. So we've agreed to a settlement number on this of $140,000. Starting at the beginning of this calendar year. He filed the appeal in September of 2020. The Board of Assessment Appeals denied it and went up to the Common Pleas Court to where this consent order settlement came down between the taxing bodies.
Questions, comments?
What was it assessed at before?
200.
What was, I'm assuming Paul got an appraisal on the property. Is that accurate before this?
It was based primarily off the recent purchase price, since the property was on the market for a substantial amount of time.
Mhm.
The fee or some of it came based off of the sale price.
Any other questions, comments? Make it, resolution 2021
214.
214.
Could I ask JR just a procedural question? And boy, I ought to know this. You spelled out the process. The Assessment Appeal Board initially denied. It went to Common Pleas Court. This settlement was reached. You circle back to the three of us. Does the Assessment Appeal Board take any action over and above what we're doing?
At this point, no. Once it goes up to the Common Pleas Court, it's up to the three taxing bodies to let me make a decision.
Thank you. Appreciate your clarifying that. Or in this case, the two taxing bodies.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay.
We do bring it to the board's attention so they are aware of what is happening up at the Common Pleas level. But they don't need to take any action on it.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Up next, I'm assuming this is comparable to what we're doing. Oh, wait, we have to vote on this because the process changed.
Right.
All right, I'll take a motion to approve resolution 2021-214.
So moved.
Second,
Good motion, second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We'll make this resolution 2021-215. JR, what do we got going on here?
A second property that was at the Common Pleas, again owned by Paul Lynch Investments. This is a property located at 126 West Sheridan Avenue. Parcel ID is 01-002900. This is just a residential home. It's kind of the one behind the old Wilshire building up there soon on the corner of Sheridan and Wilmington. It's the first house right behind it. Paul had this property on the market for quite some time, unable to sell it. The property on the inside of it is completely torn apart. So it is completely gutted. There's not much that can be done with it at this point. So we agreed to the most recent listing price on this property at the current assessed value.
JR, I'm assuming in both of these cases that in the case of Wilmington, the school district, and only the school district, in this case, both the city of Newcastle and the school district have agreed to these consent orders.
Yes, I won't come to the three of you until the other taxing bodies have already approved it.
Okay.
In most cases, we are the low person on the totem pole, so we'd rather have the school district, especially the city, we're third. Some municipalities are third, but most of the time we are second. What I will definitely wait till the school district approves before coming to see the three of you.
But to clarify on this one too, the city, the municipality up the city of Newcastle was approved this one.
Yes, so I wait for the solicitor to give you the copy of the consent order, and she will sign by the other attorneys before presenting to you.
Gotcha.
Could I follow up on Mr. Floyd's question then?
Yes.
The resolution before us lists your Board of Assessment Appeals, or I should say our Board of Assessment Appeals, excuse me. It lists the Newcastle Area School District. However, the city of Newcastle is not listed at the top. Should it be?
At this point, no, because I never intervened in this case. They are made aware of it, but their attorney never intervened.
I see. Okay, that makes sense then. But going back to what Mr. Boyd asked you, even though they didn't intervene, the city council at some point agreed to this. Is that
They agree
correct?
or they are aware of it. Since they didn't intervene, there's no necessary action to be taken by them,
Okay.
but they already brought to their attention by their council.
Okay,
But they have the opportunity to intervene if they so desired.
Correct.
okay.
It is a policy that has changed. Well, I don't want to say change, it's been put in writing recently based off of Act 255, that the property owner is responsible to notify all three taxing bodies prior to them filing to court of common pleas. By doing that, that then gives the three taxing bodies the opportunity to intervene in the case. They cannot be denied intervention because they are an interested party regardless, but they do have to formally make the intervention into the case in order to have a say in what happens.
Gotcha. Any additional questions, comments?
No.
We'll take a motion to approve resolution 2021-215.
So moved.
Second,
We have motion second, very further discussion, hearing none, question on the motion, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Steelvogel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler,
yes.
Commissioner Boyd,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thanks, Gerald. Up next, we have Chad Strobel for a number of different items with public safety. Chad, if you want to approach the bench. Our first item,
Good, how are you doing, sir?
doing good, thanks. Our first on deck is, make it 216. For JH Consulting LLC, what do we have going on?
All right, every 5 years, per FEMA and the Commonwealth, we're required to complete a commodity flow study. This company, we've used them before, they're used widely throughout the region for that commodity flow study. They will go sit on some various highway entries and watch for vehicles going by, find out what chemicals they're carrying, how often they're carrying them. After that, they'll sit near rail yards and check how much rail traffic we have coming through, what chemicals and what the biggest commodity is. So the price is $7,000. 50% of that's due after the first phase of the highway or the rail portion, and the remaining is due after that. This will be covered 80% by a state grant, the HMEP grant, which covers transportation-related studies, training, exercises. So we will be on the hook for 20% of that, which is what we did 5 years ago as well. We covered 80%. We pay initially, then they match the price. The state reimburses us for that funds. So like I said, it's due to be completed every 5 years. We're coming up. They'll start this October. It's part of the October 21 to September 22 cycle. So it's due in 2022. They're going to start this fall and have it completed early in 2022, which will cover us for the next 5 years.
Gotcha. And this is effectively, you didn't say it, but you said it. This is monitoring if there's any hazardous materials coming into the county.
Correct.
So,
Gives our hazmat response teams the ability to know what our biggest threats are in the county. As far as, I think our biggest one by rail this last cycle was propane and LPG, and by road was gasoline, diesel fuel.
Sure.
So,
are we just pulling over random cars and what's that?
yeah, they will sit on a bridge or a ramp and just watch every car go by, photograph them, then write down the placards for those vehicles that identify what chemical they're carrying, and the types of trailers used, and the product which is on the trailer. So they won't be stopping anybody, they'll just be watching and writing down everything that goes by.
Gotcha. Interesting process. Questions, comments?
I do. It's procedural, and you may or may not know, and if you don't, not a problem. Are they more focused on through traffic? In other words, vehicles that are coming through the county from point A to point B and not necessarily stopping within the county? Or are they looking more for vehicles that have a reason to be in the county that are actually physically stopping? That's my first question. And I'll see if you can answer that. Then I have a second question.
No, they do not know the end point of these vehicles. It's just anything passing through on our roads. There's no confirmation as to where they're going, how long they're going to be here. It's just anybody passing through.
That's helpful and leads to my second question. I'm assuming the answer is yes. That being the case, do they focus, to your knowledge, more on, let's say, Interstate 376 or this little section of Interstate 79 out in Plain Grove, and maybe even the turnpike that comes through, or even roads like 422? Do they focus on the more highly traveled roads, and particularly the interstates, if you know?
They do. I don't have our last report with us to read the exact roads. They put a listing of every road they sit on, how long they sat there, and what they got off that road, and they compile it. I believe it was mostly the larger roadways, 422, 376, 79, the main central longest roads through the county.
Makes sense to me, at least. I can't see them sitting on Vinegar Valley Road down in Wayne Township, waiting for a. Okay, that makes,
Fertilizer now. They do stick out to the main roadways.
thank you very much.
This is FEMA required.
Yes, it's through FEMA.
We'll take a motion to approve 2021-216.
So moved.
Second,
The motion is second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler,
yes.
Commissioner Boyd.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Up next, we have 217, Motorola.
Motorola, I am fairly new at this iCore system, so I do not have much information. Jeff would be your best help on that. This is the resolution to enter into another 9-year maintenance agreement, or it's 9 years, with the 6 counties that are part of the iCores project, the Inter-County Regional Radio System. This price, I don't know exactly what our portion of it is, but it's split between the counties that are involved for ongoing maintenance and hardware replacement. Over the years, when technology goes out so fast, that they're constantly replacing it. For us to go and do this individually on our own, piece by piece, when we have to do it, the cost is outrageous. So this covers all the maintenance on our tower sites, our hardware that we have at those tower sites in our building, and keeps it up to date and keeps it maintained all across the region between those 6 counties. But like I said, I apologize, I don't have too much information on that, but that's the basis. We have been in this contract before, and this is the next cycle for 9 years. And I believe it's every 3 years of that 9, they do hardware updates and keep our system current and working on.
Couple things I want to note. Number one, the majority of this funding is not, all of this is paid for through state grants, whether that be the Interconnectivity Fund, whether that be the various fund monies that we receive through PEMA, through the Commonwealth, for the sole purpose of maintaining our 911 systems. So I want to note that, number one. Number two, I think it's a testament to our Department of Public Safety of the scale of this project. You know, I think on a number of occasions, especially at the commissioner's level, you know, we're always thinking about ways to work and act and collaborate regionally. And that's emphasized through, you know, our commitment on various boards in which we serve. But this MOU and this consortium of counties, it's certainly, like I said, a testament to the Department of Public Safety that they're working with all these different counties in order to draw down our costs and figure out a way to provide the most efficient, effective, and cost effective solutions for our county taxpayers. So good work to you, good work to Jeff, good work to the department. This is certainly a good project. Thank you. Any additional questions or comments?
No, I'm comfortable with
Always, yes.
having gone through this before in the past. I'm certainly comfortable. I was gonna say if the two of you needed more information, I'd be willing to wait a week, but if you're both comfortable, I'm certainly comfortable. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. And part of the reason is for that, I'm going to be honest with you, in a period of a week, I'm not going to be able to figure out all the intricacies involved in this anyway. So it's one of the benefits of having department heads. They know stuff that
Absolutely.
you don't have to. I'll take a motion to approve 217.
So moved.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion here? None, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler,
yes.
Commissioner Boyd.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 218, adopt and promulgate, I love that word, Lawrence County Emergency Operations Plan.
Again, with FEMA, every 5 years, we're required to, I believe it's 5 years, update and renew our emergency operations plan. This plan starts at the state level. We pull out our parts and, fill in our information. Then all 27 municipalities take our plan and kind of fill in theirs. So every 5 years, we're required to review, update, and just confirm that all the information is correct and still up to date in the emergency operations plan. It's a fluid document. We're changing it every day, looking over for contacts, people that are coming on, equipment that is coming on. But every 5 years, we are required to reapprove it and make sure everything's still up to date. This is Jeff and Fran and Tina and I have been going through this document as well as all of our other plans, continuity of operations or continuity of government, everything. So this is one plan that needs reapproved. There hasn't been many changes. The biggest part is the commissioners who are approving it, the department heads and some contacts, but for most it's still up to date and unchanged.
What event would justify the deployment of this plan? If you're able to provide an example or
This would work into anything, but I think our biggest threats around here would be weather-related incidents, a weather emergency affecting multiple municipalities, hazardous materials incidents. But weather is our biggest threat between the ice storms, the severe thunderstorms, snow would be the biggest threat where we may have to activate the plan, make procurements outside of the normal ways of making procurements would go along with the emergency declaration. We'd have to share resources among municipalities, among counties, go into a different type of staffing. But this would also entail opening up our emergency operations center, bring in subject matter experts on all these different public works and planning, medical.
We initiated, correct me if I'm wrong, I might be wrong here. We initiated a minor activation of this plan at the onset of COVID-19. It was sort of a half measure. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that was the pandemic plan, which was mostly based off of one of the flus many years ago, back in 2007. I forget what the exact one, but most of that information was avian flu. But the majority of that pandemic plan, which is why we started immediately updating it with information pertinent to COVID-19. So we did activate that. We had an enhanced activation of our emergency operations center. We began to bring in, with the assistance of the state and FEMA, extra personal protective equipment. We were setting up plans for how our staffing would work should we have staffing shortages within the 911 center. We're working with municipalities to make sure they have the equipment they needed and the supplies they needed. We're working with the nursing homes to make sure they were adequately supplied and able to continue on until the state would get equipment and PPE. So it was partial activation. We were more, let's say, enhanced rather than full activation. Yes.
Okay. All right. So yeah, big thing, because that's the reason I read Counterterrorism, Preparedness and Response Act, and my thought immediately went to terrorism, which obviously isn't the biggest threat in Lawrence County.
Our biggest thing is weather.
Yeah.
As far as hazardous materials.
Gotcha. Additional questions, comments from the board?
No, I rest assured with the knowledge that you all have and knowing the paperwork that you go through for all of those updates, and every time, supervisors change or, fire chief change, just different things like that. Those all have to be updated to, all of the paperwork needs to be done to be able to, in the event of a situation like that, to get that plan in motion to get what you need from FEMA and FEMA. I remember sitting in a class years ago that it's the paperwork and the municipalities, are you getting the cooperation from the municipalities turning their paperwork in?
Yes.
Okay, I remember that being an issue, that if you don't have the paperwork in and something happens, nobody to blame but themselves, and just curious if that message got out with updates.
The recent hazard mitigation plan, we had to put some extra effort into getting some people's paperwork, but we ended up getting it, everything was covered. So with these, we had a pretty good group of local emergency management coordinators, so they stay pretty active and communicate with us. And they hear a lot from us. We're sending them emails and information constantly. So,
You did mention about counterterrorism, and you would recall this, Loretta. you might as well, back 20 years ago, right after 9/11.
Absolutely.
Do you remember that there was concern about the water supply?
Yes.
And they upped security, Debbie, you would recall, they upped
I
the
worked there
security
well. Yes.
at the
I was on the
various
police
water treatment
department.
facilities.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there were police officers standing by. That would be an easy way to get it. That, sure, yes. Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But we'll take a motion to
Learned a
approve.
lot about water treatment facilities, more than I really wanted to know, but, yeah, you took the tours through just to make
Yes.
sure everything was safe, yeah. Mhm.
Take a motion to approve 218.
So moved,
Second, motion is second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Steelvogel,
yes.
Commissioner Vogler,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you. Chad, thank you very much, appreciate
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
No ordinance on the table for introduction or for final action. Announcements, next commissioners meeting will be held on Tuesday, September 14th, 2021 at 10 a.m. There will be a prison board meeting on Wednesday, September 15th, 2021 at 12 o'clock noon. And there's a planning commission meeting tomorrow at noon at the Crane Room. For anybody who might wish to attend, all those meetings are open to the public. And we'll be in good shape there. Anything additional from my colleagues or?
No.
Public comment? Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Good motion is second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Lawrence County Board of Commissioners adjourned.
Debbie, here's your packet.
Thank you, Bill.